Okay, sir, we are good to go.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend Smith. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this April 28th, 2021 Executive Committee meeting of the North Carolina State Board of Education. I'm Eric Davis, Chair of the Board, and I call this meeting to order. Prior to the start of the meeting, a quorum of 4 members of the State Board Executive Committee was confirmed. Board members are reminded that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware, it will then be your duty to abstain from participating on the matter and from voting on the matter. Colleagues, you've seen the agenda for this April 28th, 2021 meeting and had the opportunity to review it. I ask if there are any requests for changes to the agenda. Hearing none, I request a motion for approval of the April 28th, 2021 agenda.
So moved, Mr. Keenan.
Motion by Mr. Keenan. Is there a second?
Second, Mrs. White.
Second by Mrs. White. Dr. Townsend Smith, will you call the roll to capture the vote?
Yes, sir. Ms. Kamnitz? Ms. Kamnitz?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, the motion carries. We have an agenda. Thank you. We'll now proceed to the one action item for our consideration today, and I'll turn to Dr. Townsend Smith to provide the presentation on this item. Dr. Townsend Smith.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Truitt, and respective members of the board. Following the COVID-19 pandemic, Education Corps was an initiative that the State Board of Education approved as its response to handle the academic and non-academic needs for our K-12 schools. In September 2020, you guys approved the use of the NC Education Fund for NC Education Corps purposes. We established contracts for each respective individual associated with the work. As you recall, the first part of those payments were handled by the governor's office. And from January until April, contractors worked on remaining components that needed to happen in relation to EdCorps. We now come to that time where we need to pay the invoices or payments for those contractors for the over 1,700 hours plus travel that they have conducted on our behalf for EdCorps. The payments for each of the respective contractors range from $45 an hour to $72 per hour, depending on what part of work they needed to do in relation to the work. And the total amount ranges in the range of 160 plus $1,000. And so what I am requesting today is the ability to finalize any needed invoices or payments for EdCorps purposes from the Education Fund, not to exceed $200,000. So that is my recommendation and request for approval from the Executive Committee this morning. Any questions?
Dr. Townsend Smith, questions from my colleagues for Dr. Townsend Smith on this matter?
Mrs. White, I have a question, please. Who is the entity that reviewed all of the, I'm going to call them billable hours, the invoices that have been submitted to ensure fiscal accountability and that the requests that were made fit within the scope and parameters of the EdCorps and the State Board of Education agenda?
Ms. White, this is Dr. Townsend Smith. I have reviewed all of those pieces. I often had meetings with John Paul Smith to ensure checks and balances, that we were doing what we needed to do, and that contractors were fulfilling the components of the work in relation to EdCore. So I reviewed that on your behalf, and engaged in appropriate meetings to ensure that there was accountability there.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend Smith.
Other questions? Okay, hearing none, thank you, Dr. Townsend Smith. The North Carolina Education Corps is a critical component in our COVID-19 recovery response, as well as our aspirations for our public school students for years to come. And we look forward to continued updates from the Education Corps, as it is now a newly formed independent nonprofit entity. And we look forward to receiving regular reports from our superintendent, who now serves on that board. The advisors that the state board approved to be liaisons at our meeting earlier this month will also be critical to ensuring alignment of the Education Corps work with the board's priorities. Board members, are there any other questions before we move to voting on this matter? Hearing none, I request a motion to approve the expenditure from the North Carolina Education Fund as presented in this meeting.
So moved, Mrs. White.
Motion by Ms. White. Is there a second?
Mr. Keenan.
Second by Mr. Keenan. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, Dr. Townsend Smith, will you call the roll to capture the vote?
Yes, sir. Ms. Kamnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Motion carries. Thank you, colleagues. That concludes our work for today. I want to thank you for your participation in this executive committee meeting of the state board. And I now ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Keenan.
Motion by Mr. Keenan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kamnitz. Dr. Townsend Smith.
Yes, sir. Ms. Kamnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes. Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Have a great day.
Thank you.